Fourth grade into math lesson 17.1. Identify and draw perpendicular and parallel lines. I can identify parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and lines that are neither parallel nor perpendicular. Please, spark your learning. A news station drone pilot is flying a drone over a neighborhood as part of a news story. The images that the drone captures reveal intersecting lines, parallel lines, and perpendicular lines. How can you show that each of these terms in this picture, or how can you show each of these terms in this picture of a neighborhood? So, let's look right here. So, the sidewalk compared to the road is a what? So parallel lines. Okay. What about this road compared to this road? This is perpendicular because it forms a what? If I put that little box there, that means it's a what type? That's a 90-degree angle, so that means it's perpendicular. So sometimes we have to imagine that lines can extend past what we see, right, guys? Okay, so if I use the edge of this road right here, and then I use this fence post going like this, what kind of lines did I just form? These are intersecting because they don't form a right angle, correct? So they come across each other, but they are not forming a right angle. So if lines come across each other and they form a right angle, you're getting a perpendicular line. If lines come across each other but form like an acute and an obtuse angle at different points, you're getting intersecting. And then parallel, they don't ever come across each other, right? Okay, they stay apart from each other. Build understanding number 1. You can find examples of lines in the world around you. Label each picture that appears to show intersecting lines, perpendicular lines, or parallel lines. So, in that first picture, do they cross?
No.
No. So that means they're what? Parallel lines. And then in the next picture, okay, so we have these lines. Do they go across each other?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Do they form a right angle or do they form obtuse acute angles? So then that means they're what type of angles? Intersecting. And then the next one, do they cross each other?
No. Yes.
Yes. Okay, we talked a lot about how perpendicular lines form a T, right? Okay, and they have to form what kind of angle? Right. So does that picture have a right angle? Yes. So that means it is perpendicular line. Unscramble the definitions for intersecting lines, perpendicular lines, and parallel lines, then write the correct term. Are always the same lines in the same plane, distance apart, that never intersect, and. So what is the correct terminology for that? What should be first? Lines that never We have to unscramble this, guys. So what would we say? Plane, right? So we unscrambled that definition and got our new definition to be lines in the same plane that never intersect and are always the same distance apart. What kind of lines are those? Parallel lines. And how do we know that? Because it said they never intersect, right? Okay. To form the intersect 4 right angles, 2 lines. So we came up with our new definition as 2 lines that intersect to form 4 right angles. And what do we get? Perpendicular lines. So for the next definition, we came up with lines that cross each other at exactly 1 point. So those are intersecting lines. Okay, so step it out. Number 2, use a straight edge to draw and label the lines. Okay, so we're going to need rulers for this. Okay, so of course I don't have a ruler, so I'm going to draw my best, but you guys do. So draw and label line BC. Okay, so I am going to draw a line, and I'm going to put arrows on the end. Why am I putting arrows on the end? Is that what they showed me up here? That it was a line that continues on, right? Okay, so and then I also need to put my little endpoints. Why am I putting my endpoints? So that I can label them, right? Okay, so I'm going to put B, and I'm going to put C at the other one. Now it says to then draw and label line DE parallel to BC. So show me with your arms real quick what parallel is. Okay, show me. So what does parallel look like? Everybody show me, please. Put your pencil down. Okay, what is perpendicular? Okay, has to form a 90-degree angle, right? And then intersecting. All right. Okay, so parallel. Is my line going to come across this other line at any point? No. Okay, so I'm going to draw my line. You're using your straight edge though. And then what do I also need to put on here? What are those called? Endpoints, right? And then label them as D, E. Now, how did I know that I was drawing parallel lines? How did I know to say that line DE? Oh, hold on 1 second. Line DE was parallel to BC. Please raise your hand. Brinley? So right here, they gave us a little symbol, right? That showed us that they wanted parallel lines. Okay, so on the next one, draw and label line MN. So you guys are going to use your straight edge, and you're going to draw line MN. And then don't forget to label your endpoint. Now, could you have drawn that instead of just horizontally? Could you have drawn that vertically as well? Yes. Okay, you could have drawn it either way. Okay, then we're going to draw and label line ST so that it is perpendicular to NN. So what kind of angle do we have to get? What size? Perpendicular angles have what size of angle? A right angle that is 90 degrees, right? Now, technically, we could take a protractor, right? And we can find our 90 degrees and get it, all right? I'm just going to let you guys take your ruler and draw a straight line again, okay? And then we are going to label that as S and T. And then what do I need to put there so that if I was looking at it later, you had done this on your own, I was looking at it later, and I knew that you had got a 90-degree angle? A little box to indicate that it's 90 degrees, right? So on the next one, they want us to draw and label FG. So you're going to take your ruler and you're going to draw FG. And what do I need to make sure I put on it? Endpoints, right? And label them. Okay, and now they want us to draw and label intersecting lines at FG with a point A. Okay, so is this going to have a 90-degree angle? No. No. Okay, so I am going to draw my line, put my endpoints of what? H and J. But I need to identify one other spot. What do I need to identify? The middle where they intersected, right? And then that's what? Letter A. So I have to make sure I have all those things identified. Number 3, line segments are part of lines that form the sides of figures. Use the directions to mark the figures. So they also give us a little box over here, kind of like a little cheat sheet, right? Okay. And it says line BC is parallel to DE. And that's what we kind of talked about when we read this up here, right? Okay. Line NN is perpendicular to line ST. We talked about that. These symbols right in here, right, guys? Okay. And then line SG intersects line HJ at point A. Okay. So circle the figures that appear to have perpendicular lines. So which ones have perpendicular lines? The square, right? Because it has to form a what? 90-degree angles. Mark X on the figures that appear to have parallel lines. So parallel lines do what? They don't ever intersect or come across each other, right? So which one would that be? The triangle would be intersecting because they're going to come across. Parallel is like this. The trapezoid, right? Okay. The pentagon would not, because do those kind of come at slant? Yeah. And then, but these two right here on the trapezoid would never come across each other, right? Okay. And then, of course, right here we have our 90-degree angles, right, that help us with perpendicular. Yes? Okay, check understanding. Use figure 1 and 2. So, which pair of lines are perpendicular? So, perpendicular lines have to form a what? A 90-degree angle. So, I'm going to put my little line symbol. And then what 2 letters can I do? Not A and B, but A and D, right? And my little line symbol again. And then what can I do? B and C. Okay, and this time what should I have done? I shouldn't have put an and sign here. I should have put a what sign here?
Or no.
Like the upside down T to say perpendicular, right? Okay. Now what about the lines that appear to be parallel? So I'm going to do a line again to label it as a line. What would be one of the lines? These two, right?
A and B.
So AB. So line AB is parallel to line what? CD. And then there shouldn't be like it's connected in here, right? Okay. Okay, so for this page, we went ahead and used our straight edge and drew our intersecting points for number 3. We drew our parallel and perpendicular lines for number 4. And then number 5, we used the picture to the right to help us figure out which lines were parallel and which lines were perpendicular. Then on number 7, we used the picture of the bees to see we see a hexagon shape in there, and the hexagon shape also has parallel sides or lines.